What's up, social media? It's been about a week, so I'm back. Vic here. I'm going to do what I can to try to save the world. So it's time to talk about Black Lives Matter. Now, don't go getting your panties all in a bunch and spewing some crap that I'm white and I don't get to have my say. I absolutely do, and I absolutely will. You can call it my white privilege if you'd like. Now, hear this. I do believe that all black people's lives matter, just like I believe every single human life matters. But the organization itself is an absolutely moronic, left-leaning, Marxist, extremely divisive ideology. Let me throw a nice, soft, slow pitch of knowledge at your brain for a minute or two. The left wing of our country's political class are screaming systematic racism with no actual statistics or facts to back up those claims throughout our entire country. And if you disagree with them at all about anything they actually endorse, as I do, then you are a racist just like me. Wait a second, I'm not a racist, neither are you. Neither are most sensible, intelligent people in today's America. And guess what? They all know it. Every single one of them. And I will explain some of the reasons why in just a moment. Let's get into what they believe in politically first. As I said, Black Lives Matter are an upfront Marxist organization who don't even hide it. Look them up. One of their main beliefs are abolish the nuclear family, which, when I first heard that term, I thought, good. These people sound horrible. Sounds like a bunch of families that want to nuke everyone or something ominous like that. Then I looked it up. The exact definition of nuclear family is simple. A couple and their dependent children regarded as a basic family unit. That's it. There's nothing ominous about that whatsoever, at least that I can define. So what they are looking to accomplish here is tearing families apart so there are more individuals instead of family units. This is designed to separate the family unit so it's easier to indoctrinate individual people into their system of beliefs without a strong family bond to stop them from doing so. Individuals are way easier to manipulate and control. It is truly very simple and very diabolical. Divide and conquer. Very cult-like, which is also pretty smart in trying to obtain their goals. Now, their plans to tear our country down and rebuild it from the ground up, what they are doing here is using their so-called oppression and victim status to shame us for the sins of our fathers and grandfathers, regardless of whether they ever did anything wrong in their lives or not, while also trying to silence the majority of people who won't fall for their hoax with left-wing violent mob activists like Antifa, whom they have obviously already separated and indoctrinated into believing their twisted ideologies. Please pay attention. This is the most important part. Their end goal. They are trying to put themselves into a position that when, or should I say if, they get to tear down the entire system, they are at the top of the ladder when it's time to rebuild, making themselves into the elite, and anyone who opposed them, like myself, will now be the oppressed. Their so-called call for equality is so full of shit, I could smell it coming up from their bowels through their esophagus when they speak. They do not want equality. They want to blame us and shame us into relinquishing the country's power onto them and people that look and think like them. This is identity politics at its worst. And all those that fight or oppose their beliefs will be met with mob-style violence or be canceled from their new woke society, left-leaning mainstream media and the bullies they surround themselves with. Mom and Gramps didn't raise no fool. May they rest in peace. I see right through all of this crap. And hopefully by the time I'm done here, if you don't already, you do too. Now, there's also this. Defund, or should I say abolish the police. First, the actual statistics, which honestly surprised the hell out of me. I truly thought that with the amount of crime in the urban communities and the amount of police presence, that it would be way more unarmed black men being killed by than white men. But facts are facts, and true numbered statistics don't lie. And the numbers for 2019 are out, my friends, and they actually double against whites. 19 whites and 9 blacks. And you could change that to 20 and 10 depending on where you get your numbers from. But in my math, that's still double. And as far as this year goes, I believe the number is 4 or 5 blacks. I don't know how many whites. Don't ask. No one ever shows those statistics because no one cares. And it goes against their narrative. This is hardly the genocide they're trying to sell you and the rest of the public, though, now is it? And when they ever get their hands on any video evidence of what happened leading up to and during an incident where a black person is killed by an officer, it's edited to show only what the police did wrong, not the actions of the person leading up to their deaths, trying to solidify their narrative that police are hunting down and murdering innocent black men by the thousands. This immoral gaslighting leads to people of all colors screaming and crying that black people are being murdered every single day by the police, which is just factually false. And I believe people need to do their homework and research before opening their mouths, especially in a public setting. The rate is not even once a month. Now, don't get me wrong. It sucks that it happens at all. But stop with the lies and virtue signaling. You really aren't helping anyone. You're actually hurting almost every single person in this country one way or another. It all seems pretty evil in my mind just to be able to obtain and then retain ultimate and unchallenged power in our country by corrupt politicians and political activists trying to force their views and policies onto us through racial divide. It is super aggravating and literally makes my blood boil. I'm not kidding. I get a fever when I start thinking or talking about this stuff. That might be COVID. I'm not sure. Discussion for another day. All right, let's change the mood up for a second. So here's the best thing to me about the whole abolish the police campaign they're trying to push on us. And it's where I can show you my evidence against all this bullshit. This is how I know that they know that this country is not even close to as racist as they would have you believe. If they really believed their own garbage, then abolish the police would never come out of their mouths. I'm sorry to bore you again, but here are some more actual statistics, factual statistics. The American population is broken down like this, and I get my numbers from the Census Bureau, so they are what they are. 76.5% of Americans are white and 13.4% of Americans are black. That would be 43 million black Americans and 245 million white Americans. That's more than 200 million more white Americans than black Americans. If they truly believe there is so much racism in this country, why would they abolish the police? Come on, this is a serious question. You would think that with that much racism going on, and almost 6 times the amount of white people more than blacks, the police would be the only line of defense or chance for survival. I'm not saying that racism doesn't exist, but if it existed, even in 10% of white people, you would think that with 25 million hardcore racists running around America, you would hear of an actual racial attack on people of color at least once every single day. You don't. And don't let them tell you that you do just because it's coming from them. Believe me when I say this, though, and I know you do, if there were actual attacks on black people every single day, CNN and MSNBC and the New York Times and the Washington Post would be touting those stories all day long, nonstop. The last 3 racist acts attacks that I have heard of anyway were all made-up attacks. You know them. Juicy Smollett, Bubba Gump Wallace, and the girls on the bus that lied on the white kid. All proven hoaxes. And you could say, what about George Floyd? Listen, that cop was a piece of shit straight from the asshole of hell, but they knew each other for 17 years. I personally believe he just hated the man himself. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he was a horrible, pathetic racist. But one actual terrible racist act from one terrible cop is hardly systematic. I'm sorry, there's no conspiracy here. There are individual acts from individual douchebags. That's it. Which leads me to this question. Why are all white people in America, like myself, lumped together? Why are Asians here called Asian Americans? Why are Africans called African Americans? Somalians, Somalian Americans, Indians, Mexicans, and so on and so forth. White people are spread out all over the entire globe in dozens of nationalities. If a Polish Irishman kills a black person, why is a French Italian person taking slap for what that jerk off did? All because of the pigment of our skin? For someone with even a little bit of common sense, all of that would seem incredibly ignorant. Especially when the people that are lumping all the white people together are the ones howling equality and diversity at the moon 24 hours a day. I am nothing like that scumbag that killed George Floyd because of the color of my skin. Just like most black people aren't Pookie from New Jack City or Bishop from Juice just because of their darker color. You can't lump people's beliefs together simply because of the pigment of their skin. We are all individuals with our own ideas and beliefs, period. So with all that being said, I have a message for the BLM movement. Please slow down your rhetoric. I truly believe if you keep it up, you will be creating racists out of decent people who would have never in a million years thought they ever would be. Even an extremely good-natured person, again, like myself, backed into a corner, fearing for their lives, can turn into an animal in the blink of an eye. And I promise you, those little white phonies you call your allies in the Antifa organization are going to abandon you in a heartbeat and run back to mommy and daddy's house, hide in the basement, under the covers, snuggle in their video game controllers if the shit hits the fan. There's not a doubt in my mind. Any human stain that will only throw down in a group of their friends with body armor, masks to hide their identities, and weapons against individual people are going to run to the hills when they are now confronted with a fair fight or outnumbered. Mark my words, it's exactly what's going to happen. Now, Something's been weighing on my mind. And again, I know I'm a white boy, so I'm not supposed to be talking about this, but I'm going to anyway. This tearing down of statues and trying to erase our history. We are all Americans right now. Most of us were born here. Most of us got here through our ancestors in one way or another. Whether your great-great-grandfather stepped off a boat from Ireland, Italy, or China with lint in his pockets or $1,000,000, or your great-grandfather was forced here in chains because his own people sold him into slavery. We are here now because of the sacrifices that they all made. Some sacrifices were way harder than others. I do get that, and I am sympathetic. I'm sure some of our ancestors went through a torturous, immoral hell just to survive one day to the next. But guess what? They did survive, or we wouldn't be here today. And if they could survive in those times, battling the kind of lawless depression and oppression that was actually systematic in those times, why can't we just thank them for their sacrifices and move forward? We have come a very long way since slavery, and they all fought to get us where we are today. And they won. We are a far stretch from the 1600s or the 1800s when slavery was unjustifiably rampant, but it isn't anymore. And for some of our ancestors that fought so hard to end slavery and most racial injustices in the past, of all colors, I'm sure they would be sad to know that this is still such a divisive topic. Listen, I don't want to say get over it. I'm not that person. Remembering our history and the sacrifices that were made are a good thing. But I really think we need to move forward with the positive aspect of the abolishment of slavery instead of looking backwards at the evil that has been abolished for well over a century. Tearing down our statues and changing our history books will not change what happened. It will actually only make our children more ignorant to the truth of what our history was. Instead of tearing down a statue of someone you disagreed with, take a picture of it, post it on social media, and make your argument on why you think that person was wrong in their beliefs. Otherwise, the truth will be erased and history ignored is history repeated. So I'm going to finish this rant with a final question. Why can't we all just sit down and negotiate some middle ground over this whole cabal? Some kind of systematic reform that works for everyone. Before everything turns the wrong way down a one-way dead-end street, we get stuck in a cul-de-sac and there's no turning back. I truly think open-minded negotiations would be the best bet instead of demanding things that are never going to happen for you based on falsehoods and lies in this country without another civil war. If that happens, we all lose everything, especially our children. And I would hope nobody would want that. But if it is what you do want, I wish you the best of luck with your future. I'm always open for some kind of discussion on how to make our lives better and more prosperous. Black, white, brown, yellow, red, blue, or even the little green or gray guys that will be here soon enough. Try me. We all do have to live together after all, no matter what race we are, or from where or whom we came from. For everyone that's watching, try to have a better day than yesterday and ride that momentum into tomorrow. Until next time, peace.